An innovative solution to the growing global food security challenge comes from an emerging startup called Natufia. Duaa, what motivated you to get Natufia off the ground?
Given my experience in academia, I felt like working in the lab lacked practical impact. After college, I figured I want something that would actually change the world, especially when it comes to food security and sustainability, and that's how Natufia came about.
And what does the solution do for the consumer?
So Natufia is a fully autonomous hydroponics indoor kitchen garden, but even beyond that, we don't necessarily specialize in indoor kitchen gardens, but we're moving also towards commercial spaces as well as the hospitality industry when it comes to growing food. So instead of moving food from farmers to consumers through this very long and unsustainable global supply chain, people can actually take ownership over their own food right where they're consuming it.
And people do really see a big challenge with the transportation and logistics and
Absolutely.
distribution. So you're cutting that completely out.
30% of food is actually lost across the food supply chain. And even when you're looking at the projections of global populations by 2050, if we keep doing that, we're not going to have enough resources or enough food to feed the world.
Is there any innovation in the core technology that's enabling someone, an amateur like myself, to grow at home?
I think the fully autonomous part is the part that makes it very accessible for virtually anybody. We use machine learning algorithms and precision sensors in order to manage the environment, the watering, as well as the lighting. So really it's as easy as a click of a button.
I'd probably find a way to mess it up.
No, I promise you won't.
In terms of the consumption of nutrients, fertilizer, water, are all of those things embedded in the hardware?
There's an inlet that you could use from, I don't know, your sink, and that would bring in the water. Electricity is just a simple plug, and even the fertilizer and the nutrients are, things that you could put in the tank, and then that's about it. But we're actually trying to figure out a way to making a breakthrough in terms of managing the pH and to make it self-manage itself where you don't even need any consumables in that process.
And in terms of what you're bringing to market, you have a fully automated solution that's quite capital intensive, but also one that's semi-automated, that's at a price point that's probably more attainable for a lot of the consumer market. What are the differences between the two units?
Well, the semi-automated solution requires a little bit more upkeep in the sense of, think of it as a personal garden in your backyard, as opposed to just a click of a button and kind of very hands-off.
One of your existing growth markets is in the restaurant and hospitality industry. Do they require a bunch of hardware to service a restaurant, or how does that work?
Maybe they would need a bunch of different units, but a unit within itself is fully encompassing of everything you'd need. However, again, it's going to be a pretty proportional relationship of how much food you produce to how many units you would need.
And are the units of fixed size, or could you actually scale this for larger industrial applications?
I think that's what makes us or gives us a competitive advantage, is that we are able to customize things according to the client. If we come across a good opportunity that requires us to make a different unit with a different design, I don't see how that wouldn't be impossible.
How many units do you have out in the ground today, and what's the target for next year?
Well, we have 44 units on the ground. I believe the target for next year is around 100 units, and I think we've completed 10% of those pre-orders. But again, by 2022, hopefully we'll reach our targets.
In terms of the produce itself, is there some particular plants that are most effectively grown in the unit and have the best yield? Or how do you map that out?
I would definitely say leafy greens have the best time inside our units, but we also grow dwarfed vegetables, so mini tomatoes, mini cucumbers.
Wow.
So you could virtually grow anything in there, but leafy greens thrive like nothing else.
So the consumable for a consumer or a restaurant hospitality industry client is really the seed pods that you've designed. Are those proprietary?
Yes and no. So we do ask our consumers to purchase them directly from us. However, if you do want to use your own seeds for plants that we don't necessarily produce, you could purchase an empty seed pod. Kind of, if you think of an espresso, you could purchase the empty ones and fill that with your own coffee blend.
Yeah, that's exactly why I asked.
So exactly. So yes and no.
Yeah, so it's agnostic to the seeds, but you have a recommended package.
For sure.
And I noticed that you actually are offering multiple plants in some of your seed packages.
Exactly.
Why was the KPMG Private Enterprise Global Tech Innovator Competition interesting for Natufia?
I think that we're trying to aim of establishing certain credibility on a global scale, because at the end of the day, we're not offering a solution just for Saudi or just for Europe or just for Estonia or whatever it may be. This is something that we want to try and integrate on a world or a global scale. So I think the KPMG contest was a very great opportunity, or is still a great opportunity for us to get that kind of exposure.